A couple of basic things. I think it's important to, I like to go back to some of the things that I think are philosophically and fundamentally important. Constitutionally, legally, and politically, the state of New York's #1 education is a sound, #1 responsibility is a sound education for all students, no matter what community you live in, across the entire state. So that, the only way we can demonstrate that, frankly, is that's where the bulk of our money has to be spent. So whether it's today or moving forward, with a property tax cap or without, with mandate relief or without, to me, the single largest cost component of our state budget has to be appropriately and properly funding education, and it's a very simple effect. The more we can drive from the state back to our local districts, the less pressure there is, on the local property tax. Second thing is, we have an obligation and a responsibility, and to some extent, to a large extent it works very well, we need to partner with the governor. When the governor does well, by and large we all do well, and that's again across all sectors and communities in the state. And I will say this, and I keep saying it every place I go, where the governor is doing good things for Long Island, I will stand up and applaud him at every street corner in his presence when he's not there as well. Where I disagree with him, and he may be doing things adverse to our collective interests, I will respectfully disagree and do so in a diplomatic way, because we don't always have to agree on it. And that includes in the area of education. Beyond that, I think where the governor needs partners more than any other area is in the area of economic development. Many of my colleagues have spoken directly to that. And just like I said, the more money we can send out from the state level, the less pressure on the local property tax. Well, frankly, the more jobs we create, the more we build our tax base. And the more we build our tax base, the more we have people staying here, starting businesses, growing businesses. So if you look at where we started last year, a $10 billion deficit, a judgment was made, a collective judgment that I think was the right thing to do, that we were not going to raise taxes. So no new taxes, no new fees, closing a $10 billion deficit, no new debt, and for the first time in decades, we actually cut state spending. Now, some people may disagree with that, but I think we needed to turn the corner, and that started to help us to be able to do that. And now, as we move forward again, at the imprimatur of the governor's office, with economic regional development councils, we got at least $100 million. We'll have more money coming in the next couple of rounds. All those things can be beneficial, but we needed to enhance our credibility at the state level. This year, while we don't have a statutory spending cap, state spending is being held under 2%. The overall growth in the budget, with all our funds, is about 1.9%. So at least in this case, we're not asking people to do things that we are not trying to do ourselves. And state funds, not including federal funds, is actually a cut. But for the people in this room, where we have either kept things flat or actually made reductions in other areas of the budget, the action we took last year set in statute an appropriation that will be tied to personal income growth, and that's basically a minimum growth of 4% a year. That's a good thing. When we went back to Albany in December, we changed the tax code largely to the benefit of millions of New Yorkers, and the actions we took in December helped preserve that $800 million. And I can tell you flat out, had we not gone back and done that, we would be in a much more contentious meeting right now, because that $800 million would be off the table. Relative to pensions, to me, if we do anything in the area of pensions, I think the single largest component that has to be reflected in whatever we enact is stability and basically a fixed cost for employers. Whatever the rate is, if it's 9, 10, 11, 12%, whatever it is, if you know what it is over time, and it's not subject to fluctuations and variations, that is good for you. I think it's largely good for the people who work for you, and frankly, it can be very beneficial to the taxpayers because it makes it a lot easier to plan. I'll close on this. I have had the good fortune, frankly, of traveling around and meeting a lot of my colleagues in particularly rural communities upstate New York, and they have very dire concerns about fiscal insolvency, educational insolvency, not unlike what we have here, but they are afraid that some of their schools are just going to go under. So when we do this, I believe that we are, frankly, better than some of our colleagues in other parts of the state, maligning other areas of the state, the city of New York, rural schools, the Big Five. The only thing that does anyone is it gets cheap political theater. We are one state. We have to work together, particularly as it relates to education. And I am proud to continue the work that I do. And I look forward to what we can do together as we craft a budget this year. Thank you very much.